Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time you are joining and wherever you are joining from, it's wonderful to be with you. Um, I reconnected with something from Tara Brach, the Buddhist meditation teacher, this week. And I wanted to start with that today. It actually relates to another story that I ran across that I hadn't heard for a while, and I'll share that in just a minute. But I'll start with reading what she had shared. She said, I sometimes think that the most basic truths are the ones that we most regularly forget. And one of them is if we are turned on ourselves, we cannot love this life. The turning on ourselves contracts us. In those moments, we are disconnected from our inner life and from each other. We move through the day with an undercurrent of, I'm not okay, but are unaware of how much it's affecting our capacity to relax and enjoy our moments. And I just thought she described this so beautifully, this turning on ourselves. And there's a teaching in the Buddhist tradition called the Two Arrows, which I want to talk a little bit about. And this came up in a conversation a couple of days ago, I guess, with a friend of mine, and she had never heard this teaching before. And we had a really nice discussion about it. So I wanted to share it with you today in case you haven't heard it, or if you have, it's just a refresher. The Buddha talks about two arrows. And the first arrow he describes is the unavoidable pain that we have in life. It might be mean words that are directed toward us, or perhaps mean words that we share or yell at another. It might be a loss that we suffer, whether the loss of a family member, a friend, a loved one, a job, um, an injury. I'm trying to think of some other ones. Heartbreak, we get our hearts broken, or maybe even something unexpected, like we're in a car accident. So that's the first arrow. It's just the pain of those moments. And then there's something called the second arrow, which is often what follows, what we do to ourselves. And that is the suffering that we add to the pain of that first arrow. And that might come through our reactions. Perhaps we resist what's going on, or we sit in judgment of what's happening or in judgment of another. Perhaps we blame ourselves or we blame another. We worry. These are all examples of ways that we create suffering for ourselves. Even the why me? Why did this happen to me? Or oh, I shouldn't have yelled, or I shouldn't have done this. So it's all of that thinking that goes on that really creates suffering for ourselves. And again, back to the Buddha for a second, he says, the first arrow hurts. Why do we shoot the second arrow into ourselves? He says, in life, we cannot always control the first arrow. However, the second arrow is our reaction to the first, and that is optional. And so I think about this, even though it's optional, we do it to ourselves. And yes, we have control over this action that we take to harm ourselves and re-injure ourselves. And sometimes it's just once we learn our lesson, and sometimes it happens over and over again until we learn maybe a deeper lesson. And one thing that I was thinking about with these arrows is the power that we have in the pause, this thing that the space that we have that we can take between the first arrow that's causing ourselves pain that's unexpected and the second arrow, which is pain that we inflict upon ourselves. And Viktor Frankl called this the space between stimulus and response, where we have this freedom to choose how we react. And when we bring our attention to the pain, without immediately reacting, then we create that pause for ourselves. And in that pause, we have the choice that we can make to be curious about what's going on. We might make a choice to be fully present with what's going on. or we might make the choice to resist what's going on. And one choice intensifies our suffering, the suffering perhaps of resisting what is. And the other choice, which might be to take a pause, actually helps us investigate a little further. And it might lead us more to a path of healing and self compassion. Um, and as I said, acceptance. So, today, what we're going to do is explore this space of the pause, the moment between pain and response, so that we can perhaps get a better grip or soften our grip on what is happening to us and recognize the ways that we can lessen the suffering that we create for ourselves. So I invite you now to go ahead and, if you haven't already, find a comfortable seat that allows you to be alert. So ideally upright. But if you want to lay down and that's more comfortable for you, that's perfectly fine. And to also be in a space of being relaxed. So whatever that means for you. Go ahead and once you find that comfortable seat, you can rest your hands in your lap or at your sides. And when you feel like you are ready to arrive, go ahead and gaze at a point in front of you or simply close your eyes and really tune in to the comfort of the seat that you've taken, making sure that you feel held and safe in a space where you can really be relaxed and be yourself. And we'll begin by taking some long, slow, deep breaths in through the nose, down into the lungs, all the way into the belly. And then we'll hold that for just a moment. And then release the breath through the belly, the lungs, the chest, and the shoulders. Taking another deep breath in through the nose, lungs, and the belly, expanding as much as you can. And then releasing the breath through the belly, the chest, lungs, shoulders, out through the nose or the mouth. And we'll do that one more time, taking the deepest and biggest breath that you can in through the nose, in through the lungs, the belly, expanding and holding for just a moment. And then releasing the breath through the belly, the lungs, the shoulders, even the neck, out through the nose or mouth. And letting your breath return to its natural rhythm and depth. Paying a gentle attention to the rhythm of the breath. And as you rest in this space, begin to tune in to the gentle rise and fall of the chest. Noticing how the breath moves into the body and within the body. allowing everything to be exactly as it is. And as you rest in this stillness, you might tune in to the contact points between the body and the surface beneath you. Perhaps the chair or the sofa that you're resting upon, the floor beneath you. Noticing the sense, the felt sense of being held and supported. And as you rest in this space, tuning into any emotions that might be arising, any thoughts coming into your awareness, letting everything be true and real, allowing it all without judgment. Taking this time to slow down and allow everything to be, to move through one breath at a time. Gently bring to mind now a moment of difficulty that you might have had recently. Might be something that brought discomfort to you, but didn't feel insurmountable in any way. Rather than focusing on the story of what happened, turn your attention to how it feels, how this difficulty feels in the body. You might tune in to a particular place in the body where you might feel the discomfort. Perhaps it's in more than one place in the body, or it moves. Tuning into any special characteristics, perhaps a sensation, a color, maybe an image comes to mind. Perhaps it takes on a particular texture or a shape. Whatever you notice and whatever arises for you is absolutely perfect and real. Resting in this space, continuing to notice what arises for you as you witness this difficulty. Turning your attention now to how the mind responds to this discomfort. Noticing any thoughts that might come into your field of awareness, any stories that you notice the mind is spinning. Perhaps any feelings that arise of blame or anger, irritation. Without trying to follow any stories or making anything bigger than it is. Engage your power of observation, this power of the pause, to notice and to be with whatever arises. No judgment. If you notice the mind is wandering to stories, you might name what's happening. I'm telling myself a story. Oh, I see you, blame. I'm worrying. We'll rest in this space for a few moments. I'll track the time. Now, with each breath, see or feel or even imagine softening around the discomfort that has arisen, that you've brought to mind, allowing it to be as it is without needing to change it. You might notice whether anything has morphed or changed as you've brought presence to it. Breathing in and breathing out, allowing any sensations, any emotions to move through. They're simply visitors. As you continue to rest in the stillness, observing any thoughts or sensations or feelings that are moving through, you might affirm to yourself, I'm allowed to feel this. All is well. I create space between my feelings and my actions. I let any discomfort move through me. Notice whatever arises for you in this moment, whether an affirmation, words of encouragement, perhaps even resting your hand on your heart and offering yourself some compassion. Breathing in and breathing out. We'll rest in this space for a few minutes, and again, I'll track the time. In the spirit of self-compassion today, I invite you to consider 5 things that you appreciate about yourself. Perhaps bringing to mind one per finger on your right hand. Really tuning in to what you appreciate about yourself. And turning your attention now to the left hand and bringing to mind 5 things that you're grateful for. Perhaps one per finger. Allowing these feelings of gratitude and appreciation for yourself to circulate for another moment. I'd like to read a quote from Viktor Frankl. Pain from problems and disappointments is inevitable in life, but suffering is a choice determined by whether you choose to compare your experience and pain to something better and therefore feel unlucky and bitter, or to something worse and therefore feel lucky and grateful. As our meditation draws to a close, I invite you to gradually deepen the breath, bringing some gentle wiggles or movement back into the body. Taking another deeper breath in through the nose and out through the nose or mouth. And when you're ready, you can gradually open your eyes, perhaps starting with a downward gaze, and then gradually taking in your surroundings once again with fresh eyes. I'd like to thank you so much for being with me today, for joining me in this practice. The light in me honors and sees the light in each and every one of you. Namaste. We'll see you next time.